Big round of applause, please. We would like to acknowledge the presence of the beloved Mayor of Victoria City, Mayor Juan Tan Palanca. Sir, good evening. My name is John Gilbert Arceon. It's an honor and a privilege to be your host for tonight. To be totally honest with you guys, I just heard MMM like 2 hours ago. I don't know what this is. All I know is they've helped a lot of people. They've been doing this for 20 years. $17 million in total worth of surgery since 1999. That's all I know, and that's all I need to know. Wow. To welcome us all, I'm gonna call in the guy who started this way back in 1999. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the president and the founder of Memphis Mission of Mercy. Ladies and gentlemen, so welcome Sir Renato Zalamea.
Well, good evening, and thank you very much for being here. As they said, that we've been glad to see you, Dina, and thank you. We appreciate all the courage that a lot of you guys are giving us as advice for what we're trying to accomplish, and all of us have dreams. And the music that you just heard is what they call Million Dreams. And those children, those pictures there, I think those speak louder than whatever I say, because that's what we do. Now you already know, just looking at those pictures, that's what we do all the time. That's why we're here. And one important thing that you might not be aware of, maybe you already know, but I want to emphasize, those patients don't pay a single penny. Okay? That's what we want. As a growing child, let me go back in my childhood, if you will allow me. I'll just tell you a little story. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, we are not rich or well-to-do at all when I'm growing up, or even now. But my father got sick, and we have to take him to the hospital. We waited for 9 hours outside the hospital because we got no money to pay inside the emergency room. For 9 hours, I was watching my father in agony. First time I saw him cry because of the pain and stuff. And that kind of stick on my head all the time, every time I'm in America. I have to say, some of us Filipinos that get to reach America, we got blessed. We got so lucky that we were able to be there, become an American citizen, and we enjoy the privilege of being one, all the available institution that our children will be able to enjoy just being a citizen. But most of us, deep within our hearts, we never forget, we will never forget that we do have a lot of Filipinos here in the Philippines who don't have that privilege that we have. And that is kind of not fair. We all deserve the same thing, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. So, us in America, I talk to some of my friends, Filipinos, what are we supposed to do? How can we help our people? The only thing I can think of is, hey, you're a doctor, I'm a CRNA, you got our nurses, we got non-medical thing. Let's build a hospital. Easy said and done. But if we put our foot all together on this thing, God will take care of the rest. That's the way I kind of predict that was going to happen. And the biggest push that I got is from my daughter. She told me that's one of her dream too. And just like all of us, we try to show our children what is bright ahead of our life. We become an example. And if I don't do that example, who else will? So I think all of us should do the same thing. It's just my suggestion, but everybody got their own livelihood and ways of thinking and taking care of family business. But for me, passing on to somebody that you don't know, that you think will need some guidance, some help, some support, I think that's more better than anything else that you can give to other organization of charitable institution. What we do is we try our best. We want this dream to happen wherein when you go to the hospital, you go there, you don't accept a prescription pad to buy this thing and you'll be taken care of, you'll be operated on. I'd like for them, when they come to us, you come and we'll take care of you. You don't have to buy a single syringe, a single anything that might be needed to have this surgery done. You don't have to wait, because this hospital that we plan to have will be open 5 days a week. There will be a staff from the United States that will be staffing this place, plus our local doctors working together. These people are mostly volunteer, especially the one coming from the States. I get fortunate to have these people pushing me to go on, do it, and we'll follow you. Just like that song, that Million Dreams, there will be a house, and that house will be built, and that house will come from far away. This is the house that I want. A house that will be able to take care of whoever we can take care of, the ones that really need us. It doesn't mean that when you're well-to-do, we're not going to take care of you. Let me get you corrected. We won't charge you. We will ask you for donation, not payment. We will ask you for donation, wherein you can help us run this institution continuously. And being a non-profit organization, as being given a donation, you might be able to write it off too. So you see, there's a lot of possibilities on what we're trying to do. But unfortunately, we cannot do this thing by ourselves. It needs money to help people. If I'm rich, I wouldn't even be standing here in front of you. I'll just go ahead and build it myself. But unfortunately, I'm not in that position. And so, in the States, we are known as the beggars. We have $1 million worth of equipment in our warehouse in the States, in Memphis. Those are because we beg from these hospitals. We're not ashamed to accept the fact that we are beggars, because we know this begging have a fruit behind it. It's for our people that we love, the Filipino people here in the Philippines. What more can I say? Mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Thank you, sir. Renato Zalamea, the president, the founder of Memphis Mission of Mercy. And what's amazing about it, because Sir Renato is not even a doctor. He's not a doctor. He's a nurse anesthetist. I don't know what that is, but diba? Later on, we will be talking about, of course, we need money. I mean, it's possible to have a Dr. Ver inpatient room. Diba? Or Dr. Ver emergency room. We will. Later on, we will get into that. And I think we're still expecting people. And yes, I think it's going to be a realization, sir, Renato. I mean, God will be with us. Wow, they've been doing this for 20 years. And tama nga naman. I mean, wala. Bottom line is money. We need money. We need money to do whatever we can, diba? It's, for me, just knowing MMM in a few hours ago, for me, Memphis Mission Mercies, in a nutshell, surgical care for those who can't afford. And you just said it here, and for those who can also. Hihingi lang tayo ng donation from them. Di ba? Parang, wow. Oo nga naman, if only we were rich. Di ba? It's easy. Sige, let's put a hospital there in Victoria and invite everyone. And, ay, nako. Anyway, I'd like to introduce to you our guest speaker. It's an honor to introduce him. Ladies and gentlemen, also welcome the Vice President of the Benetero Consolidated, Attorney Joey Benedicto.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Joey. I'm the runaround boy for my brother Raul, just in case you didn't know. I flew in from Manila because I'm based there. I come home every 2 weeks. And he told me that there is a very important occasion that you must attend. And tonight I am very, very honored to meet Renato, Norma, and Doc Nia today with all of you. I'm sorry I don't know all of you here. Indeed, it has been a great honor for us. Raul told me about the donation to the organization, and without any hesitation, I approved it with him. I believed in the cause. I have worked actually in such causes. Operation Smile is actually a client of my firm, and I've even met with Bill McGee himself, the founder, and we have worked on several projects. My 2 children are in the medical profession because my son did not want to be a lawyer because he did not want to be bald. So he is actually also a dentist, and he wants to specialize in surgery. My daughter is a pediatric dentist in Manila, and that is her specialization. She deals with children of special needs. I can only say that this has been indeed a great privilege for our family. Each member of our family has his or her own advocacies, charities, but this is the biggest and most organized, I guess, undertaking that we have been involved with, and we wish to support. Of course, I would like to welcome you to Negros, but I was told you've been here for 20 years already. So So I guess that's too late. But in any case, with the vision of our family to develop Victorias into a world-class city, together with Mayor Wantan, who, by the way, has been my schoolmate also in Ateneo before. We really, really hope that this undertaking is going to take off and succeed. And yes, we share in that vision of helping our less privileged countrymen and all the other beneficiaries of your generous undertaking. Thank you very much for this privilege of being here, and really, more power to you and your organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Attorney Joey Benedicto, ladies and gentlemen, the VP of Benetera Consolidated. Actually, MMM just concluded their mission in medical mission in Victorias. Yesterday ba, sir? Kahapon. It was their 9th here in Negros. And I was asking Dr. Nia, why, of all, ang dami-dami ng mga lugar sa Negros, but Victorias? They work with Victorias because this was started in 2001 with the former mayor, the late Remedios Bantog. And so, nagtuloy-tuloy na yun hanggang ngayon.
And thank you to the Benedicto family. Thank you to our mission family that's present and our board members. Thanks to mom and dad. Thank you to the media that are present. I see my job this evening is to help share the breadth of this work, the breadth of the relationships that we bring to the table, our vision and our hopes with this work and what we've done to get to where we are today. I invite you to write down questions as they will inevitably come, and we'll respond as clearly as we can. When we think about the work that we've done over the last 19 years, it'll be 20 years, I believe, in May of 2020. When we look back on what we have accomplished, it would be impossible to go back 20 years and plan to do that. It would be impossible to recreate the relationship that we've been able to develop here in Victorias and Negros if we tried to do that from the get-go. And we understand that if there's any daily reminder of the Lord at work in our lives, it's this work. I was sharing the story earlier this evening that our introduction to the town of Victorias was through a good friend, Dr. Tony Coe, who just so happens to be an orthopedic surgeon in Bacolod. And what the heck does that have to do with Memphis? Well, back in 1967, Dr. Coe came to Memphis to do training at Campbell Clinic, which is an orthopedic surgery training program and renowned clinic in Memphis. And he just so happened to stay with Dr. Paul Lee, who just so happened to be married to one of my mom's best friends from nursing school, who just so happened to immigrate to the States in 1973. And while Dr. Coe was in Memphis, our friend Dr. Lee called for a dinner party to bring all the Filipinos together, because what do we do best? We have fellowship. We eat, we share stories, we feel at home. And so that happened. And what happened from there is a friendship that was slowly developed over time. Again, nothing that was prescribed. But what ended up happening, what was Dr. Coe and his family began to visit us in Memphis and stay with my family even before I was born. And we had that relationship. And my Uncle Paul still doesn't, he just realized all of this a couple weeks ago. I finally told him the story about how all this happened. So when my father started this work in 1999, after doing his first mission project in Guyana, Dr. Coe said, I need to introduce you to someone. And that someone just so happened to be our late, beloved Mayor Remedios Bantug. And we found a friend, and we found someone who, when we joke, but we're also serious, that when we find someone who sees what we think we see, which is an opportunity to serve and an opportunity to galvanize and use the resources for the reason we think we've been given them, that we stick together and we're family. And for that reason, we served in Victoria several times over, to the point that this past year was our 9th year. And we think back upon that when we were first meeting with different cities and thinking about doing long-term work. Why the heck were we thinking about long-term work? In 2015, I had been in practice for 6 years at that point in time. We had a stack of notebooks about this high in our mission office back in Memphis. And so we need to put all this into a database. So I punched everything into an Excel worksheet, put the patients in, the ages, the procedures we did, our stats, our outcomes, our 30-day follow-up, our complications, if there were any, our cost, and what the value of that was. I was beginning to understand how much healthcare costs in the States because of my own work. So I understood how much a thyroidectomy, for example, reimburses in the States. So I understand what value that brings. I understood how much it costs for us to deliver the care that we are delivering every year. And the numbers were shocking. Anywhere from $1.71 to $4.81 is the cost that we deliver, that we incur to provide surgical care. It kind of took us aside for a moment because we couldn't pay $4.81 anywhere to get an operation. So how do we do that? Well, that's when we start talking about when my dad was mentioning we're professional beggars or we're equal opportunity beggars. What we understand is that us in healthcare, we do what we know how to do. We do surgery. We do it well. We think we do it well. We know we do it well based on our stats, and we aim to continue to do it well. We don't think we should be doing it unless we do it well. But the other thing what we realize is that it's not just us in healthcare who understand the importance of healthcare. In 2015, the United Nations and the World Bank and the WHO finally decided to define access to surgical care with quality as a human right. You may be asking, why in the world did it take so long? Because around the world, Dr. Miato, we all know that this takes cost. But when Dr. Miato and I are in training, we're not learning how to do colon surgery and appendix surgery and gallbladder surgery and losing hours of sleep and losing time with your family and missing funerals and weddings and births. We're not doing all of that just to serve one section of the population. We're not taught that way, and we don't expect to practice that way. So for better or worse, our idealistic selves, when we're practicing physicians and surgeons and nurses, when we see the unfairness of how the things that we sacrifice to attain those educational and professional resources, when we see them disparately dispersed, we have a responsibility in that. We can either be complicit or implicit. And our response here is the intentional opportunity and responsibility to distribute things differently. Someone asked me earlier this evening whether I thought this was my version of Balak Bayan. Yes. I learned these principles and these ideas from my parents growing up in Memphis. We would pack the M&Ms, we would pack the chocolate. I brought chocolate to our meeting this morning to have it. We bring Christmas toys, and we see that those have value when we bring them to my pinsan in Manila. And they open the boxes and they have these toys. But at the end of the day, their educational opportunities and my educational opportunities are different. Their opportunity to get health care and my opportunity to get health care are different. When my uncle was dying of lung cancer, his opportunity to have comforting care was different than my opportunity to have comforting care. And that feels unfair and it feels wrong. And I'm teaching students back in Memphis now where we have a poverty rate of 33%. and we have ongoing racism, we have ongoing ethnic diversity and discrimination that is systemic. If we don't respond to what is placed in front of us, who do we answer to? We answer not just to the community, but our Maker. And my parents taught me a long time ago that when we're given resources, they're not given to us just for us. We're placed in proximity to the poor for a reason. The Lord provides everything we need on this planet. We have enough food, we have enough resources, we have enough physicians, we have enough health care. But if you look at the map that the WHO published in 2015, it's only in certain continents. So what I'd like to share with you today is a little bit of the history of how we came to this place. What I hope I share with you just right now is why I'm in this. My first mission was in 2000. I was an idealistic recent college grad. Biology major, wasn't sure what to do. Should I get my PhD? Should I become a physician? And what was most important to me at that time was to find something that had some deep purpose, but also I would be able to provide some deep opportunity and resources that were natural to me. And that's why I went into general surgery. So our background, as you've heard before, is to provide medical and surgical care to people who have economic, social, or other access barriers. Our vision is to provide quality surgical care to the poor in the Philippines. And our hope and our mission, all of that, and I hope that you see in the photographs, is that that would positively impact the quality of life of those individuals. Based on the studies published by the World Health Organization and the World Bank, and just from your own stories of people who have not received care, you understand that a hernia might just be a hernia. But a hernia over a period of 45 years means loss of wages, means loss of an opportunity for education. Loss of an opportunity for education means the entire family is affected by one reversible surgical disease. So when they looked at the GDPs and how they were affected by reversible surgical diseases across the world, there are 5 billion people who lack access to care that should have it. And as surgeons, we astutely understand what kind of impact that can have. We're a group of medical people at our core. We're nurses and nurse anesthetists, we're surgeons, and we're other healthcare providers. This is a long list of just the physician volunteers that we've had. You'll see physicians from the United States and from the Philippines here. And again, we are open always to people coming alongside us and us coming alongside them. Our average, this is for our short-term work, typically 25 cases per surgeon per week. We do have a significant percentage of head and neck diseases that we encounter, a significant amount of disease in the children that we encounter. And we understand that the disfiguring diseases that our children experience, just as they are in the States, are incredibly deeply impacting on not just that individual's potential as a productive citizen in life, but the entire family in terms of nutrition, cost, again, opportunities for education and work. And so again, this is based on our data in 2018. I haven't put the 2019 stuff in there just yet, but 2018. This is the spectrum of care that we provide and have provided over the last 19 years. And again, this is has been defined based on the needs of each local community, involving minimally invasive surgery, general surgery, surgical oncology, ophthalmology, pediatric surgery, plastic surgery. And what we understand and know moving forward, that one of the greatest needs in all of the communities that we interviewed here in the Philippines is the need and opportunity for cancer screening. How did we do it with only $4.81 or $1.71? It's through donated materials. It's through materials that are galvanized and shared. Again, just in the same way that the excesses or the surplus that we have in our own individual lives can be mobilized for good, similarly, the excesses and the surplus of all of our institutions on a very high level can be mobilized for good. For example, with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare, The early estimate is about $1 million worth. We think it's probably double that, Dad, based on the most recent stats, worth of equipment that we wouldn't be able to afford to purchase. But can we galvanize that by asking our partners in Methodist that could we bring this to the Philippines? The answer is yes. The worst they can say is no, but we still ask. Similarly, AmeriCares and Ethicon, this is where we get our suture and our mesh for our operations. Direct Relief is a relief organization in California that has assisted us in providing typhoon relief during shortly after the typhoons of Davao and Iligan and Tacloban. Scanlon is an interesting company there, and I listed there because the instruments that we use for our operations are American-made, and they're far better than the ones I use every day in Memphis. And the reason being is Scanlon is a family who developed and created the instruments for the Mayo Clinic, for the founders of the Mayo Clinic. And as a poor surgery resident, after a recent mission here in Victorious, I went to a conference and met the Scanlon family, and I was asking how much a forceps was, and it was made of titanium. It was about $7,000. And so instead of telling me that's $7,000, the woman I was facing was Mrs. Scanlon, and she said, well, tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for. And so I told her about the mission, and she said, give me a list, and I'll send you some boxes. And to date, we've received over $30,000 worth of instrumentation, and they've committed to providing all their instrumentation for the institution. Why? They understand that when it comes to surgery, internal medicine and medicines are important. Pills are important. Maintenance of hypertension and all those things are important. But we also understand that in terms of impact, what we can accomplish with one forceps is far better than I can do with 1,000 blood pressure pills. What we can do with one energy device in the operating room is much more than I can do with 1,000 blood pressure pills. Because with that one energy device, we can do thousands of operations. With one piece of stainless steel, we can do thousands of operations, and we have done so since 1999. So we understand the value of the things we hold, and we understand the opportunities. That's why it's not scary to beg for help when it comes to asking for these equipments. We apply a systems-based approach. Surgery doesn't exist in a vacuum. We, as a mission, don't want to exist in a vacuum, and we chose Victorious because we have relationships here. We have deep relationships and understanding that we have partners in the community that we want to work with, that we want to serve. For example, with Kaingalawas, we understand that there is a parallel mission to take care of the community's poor. We understand that there may be things that they need that we don't need, or opportunities where they have an opportunity to receive consults or referrals from us. Again, surgeons, we don't operate in a vacuum. We're part of a system. And so our intention with this program, with ongoing conversation, and with ongoing meetings is to find partners to work with so that we can integrate into the system-based approach. Working with local primary care physicians and specialists in order to provide new referrals, as I said earlier. We have always worked with public health and Department of Health individuals and social workers because they understand the need on an ongoing basis. Teacher Butch can tell us about the families that need us. She can pinpoint where people live. In Carmona, we know exactly where some of our patients live, and we went there to go find them, to make sure that they were able to come to the mission. It's that personal relationship and trust. The institutional partners are something that none of us can take credit for. I'll tell you a little bit about these institutions just so you understand the gravity of this. When Dad said that people are pushing us, it's not just individuals, but it's institutions. The Society of American Gastrointestinal and Endoscopic Surgeon is otherwise known as SAGES. They're the organization in the United States that defined laparoscopy, surgery with small incisions. They're the ones who first defined the standards, the training standards, and quality standards for that work. Their mission in life and in profession is to spread laparoscopy around the world. We are part of an initiative called ILAP, which is International Laparoscopy. We are on their short list, and they are waiting for us to be ready to provide space in which they can come in, bring equipment, opportunities for engagement, continuing education, so that laparoscopy can be multiplied wherever they are. That's the entire Filipino country. They can use us as a base and our relationship as a base, but our active seeking of educational partners is so that when SAGES comes and wants to work with general surgeons and provide opportunities for ongoing continuing education and quality and training, even at the biomedical level, that we have those relationships in place. The American College of Surgeons, Operation Giving Back, is the humanitarian arm of the American College of Surgeons. This is kind of, I call it Surgery Club. It's about 25,000 members of surgeons in the United States. And they have a charitable arm, and we are an official partner of the American College. The Institute for Healthcare Improvement is the best way I can describe it, it's a privately funded, academically inclined, public health approach-based entity that exists in Cambridge for the purpose of discovering new knowledge around how to deliver care better around the poor and around quality and around cost. And UT Health Sciences Center, Global Surgery Institute, would my dad and I be able to staff a surgery center here in Victoria 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? The answer is no. None of us would, and nor would we want that. What we realized with this mission and why we involve so many different individuals, we have over 120 different physicians that have been involved at any time with this organization, is that part of the sharing of resources and healthcare between the United States and the Philippines is also sharing opportunity for other people to serve as well and provide those opportunities for other folks to serve. And so the University of Tennessee and my faculty partners there have committed to provide ongoing care and rotating teams here in Victorious when this center is built. Those specialties include all the ones that I listed plus more. So that includes urology, we called general surgery already, surgical oncology, gastroenterology, all of those things, again, based on whatever the local needs are. Not to replace or supplant anything that currently exists, but to help fill any gaps that exist. I was telling Mr. Benedicto this morning that the goal is not to maintain a gap. The goal is to fill that gap, and then there's a solid road on it, and everyone could just walk across it, right? If we could not have to fill any potholes in life, fill the pothole, be done with it, and never have to repair the road again. When it comes to charitable work, the ongoing goal in life, the 20-year vision is not to ever be needed again. That the poor would always have a place to go. That there would always be an opportunity to access quality surgical care. That's the goal, is to not be needed anymore. But so long as there is a need, we are happy and willing to step in. Why? We all have our different reasons. We were talking a little bit before. But for me, and I think for my family, and I know from my family, what we feel we have been called to do is the opportunities that my dad and myself and my brother and my family have had in the States, the opportunity to experience advanced health care, is a far cry from what our same family experienced here in the Philippines. And if not for that geographical distance, it could have been me. It's always been the hardest part about the mission every year is getting on the plane and having a ticket. And it makes me mad, and it makes me sad, and it makes me just disappointed. And I don't really understand how I could keep on getting back on the plane knowing that there's ongoing need behind me. Because that's not why I miss funerals and births and birthdays and family events and training. It wasn't fair, like Dad said. And so this is my way of finding fairness. And I was telling our media earlier, it's my way of finding my faith and finding how close I feel in terms of living my faith when I do this work. I can't speak for all the board members and all of the volunteers. We all have our different reasons, but that's my reason. So when we look at these opportunities and these partners who come alongside us, these are resources, these are opportunities for advancement and engagement, so long as the community is interested. We're interested in providing quality surgical care. If the community is interested in educational partnerships for the purpose of bidirectional learning, training, clinical engagement, I know we have had over the last 19 years students come alongside us, nurses needing hours in order to graduate, residents needing opportunities in order to graduate. We understand that that is just as much a need as the direct surgical care. Again, at the end of the day, we need to train the generation that will take care of us in the future and take care of the community. So we considered place. We considered the place as a physical space to serve, but it's also a place to convene the partners that we see with us, that have been with us, alongside us. We understand that wherever we go, my mentor said, wherever you go, you will be a consumer. Wherever we build, we will also be an opportunity for job creation, job training, and opportunities for growth in the community. And I love this photograph because the nurse on the right lower side is from Davao. The nurse on the left is from Chicago, and the surgeon behind the two of them is from Tennessee and Memphis. We're in none of those places right in this photograph. We're not on that island of Mindanao. We're in a totally different place. And how did we find these three people? It's through common vision and mission. Our reputation has preceded us in that when we are on mission, when you look at the spectrum of the people, it usually takes at least 5 minutes to tell the story of why that person ended up with us because it's several degrees of separation. But when it comes to common mission and vision, that separation is compacted. So as we look towards building long-term, the reason I put this here is that this is absolutely an extension of this vision and mission. Our short-term work has built to the place where we consider doing long-term work as a way to extend this vision and mission, to continue the work that my mom and dad started 19 years ago. So beginning in 2016, 2017, we began a Philippine-wide survey. We did a needs assessment. Everyone grueling went through the application process to define the public health needs and tell us, what are the resources locally? What is the infrastructure like? We tried to have a public health approach to this. And we interviewed 3 different communities based on relationship, based on need, and based on resources. And we did that same internal search within our own organization as well. Our board of directors was formed with this charge to look at this project long-term and help deploy it. And in 2019 of this year, we signed an MOU with the Benedicto family and the Benetera Corporation. That is after our board 100% chose Victorious. And the reason we've already discussed. Those are relationships and resources we could not recreate if we tried. Nor could we take credit for it, as it should be. This was the application. You probably remember that, Mayor and Tita Butch. So what does the community need? We understood that the community needed elective surgery care, but they needed surgical care that otherwise was not able to be accessed. We knew that there was need for cancer screening, and that's a worldwide need. That's not something that's just isolated to Victorious and Negros. There was also an opportunity for bidirectional teaching and education. When we looked at the community, we've got several institutions. I just found out you have 81 educational institutions on this island. The thing that we've learned over the years as we've gone from different province to province is that there are always students interested in coming alongside us just to shadow or speak with us and talk with us. And we learned that the exposure has helped them in achieving their graduation numbers for surgical training, that they need the hours in order to get a job as a nurse. And those are barriers that prohibit those folks from being able to advance in life as well. And that's just as much an opportunity and a need. And then lastly, when it comes to our patients, Victorious has always been invitational to us and allowing us graciously to serve the surrounding community. That generosity spoke more to us than anything else, meaning that if patients were coming from Silay or other regions in Negros or even in Iloilo, those places are not so far away. Over those 5 years, we didn't serve in Victorious 4 or 5 years in a row because Victorious needed us all that time. It was because the location, just as you all have understood the centrality of this location being important in terms of commerce and in terms of business, we understand that the centrality of this is also important in terms of access to care. It's an opportunity to provide a need. Our estimated cost for this institution is $5 million. We are digging deep. We are 100% in as a board. All of us come here as donors and volunteers. We have an army of people behind us. We call them the home base in Memphis. Our folks in Memphis galvanizing and donating and serving in every way and shape they can. And that is going to be ongoing. And our job now is to share with this community opportunities to become involved. Why? The need is there. As we're taught, the poor will always be with us. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? I was taught before in school that just because the poor are always with you doesn't mean that you should always expect the poor to be with you. It means that you have to respond to the poor in front of you, that you have to respond to what's placed in front of you, and that the resources you're given are exactly what you need in order to make that response, that we're always being prepared for that next step. So when we look at this surgery center, it looks a little funny. It's exciting. The reason why it's crescent shaped is because we want it to be welcoming and open, like open arms, that everyone is welcome. We want their experience here to be excellent. In Memphis, we understand, and also here, we understand that when you don't have financial resources, there's two things you can expect from healthcare immediately. One is a wait. A long wait. Sometimes it might be 9 hours like my Lolo had. Sometimes it might be 9 days. Sometimes it might be a week or 45 years like one of my patients last year. How do we respond to that? Is that okay? Is that why you and I went to school and trained? The second thing that the poor can expect, and we have a long history of this in the States, is that the poor can also expect subpar quality of care. We have papers coming out regularly indicating that the quality of care delivered to the poor is a subpar level. It is less than people with means, meaning that when it comes to laparoscopic versus an open surgery, if you don't have money, you're more likely to get an open surgery, which means at least 6 weeks off of work, loss of wages, at least 6 weeks of not being able to lift more than 10 pounds, a longer stay in the hospital. All of those things sound like a lot of cost to me, versus a laparoscopic surgery where you might be in the hospital for 3 days and you might be able to go back to work in 2 weeks. And so it's flipped, in our opinion, that the people who need laparoscopy the most out of all of us are the poor. Why? They have no benefits. They have loss of wages. Loss of wages, like we talked about, is loss of educational opportunities. And that's why ILAP began in Mongolia. They began in Mongolia because in Mongolia, the life and death of a family was the ability to be mobile. And laparoscopy, where it really won compared to open surgery, was not just complications, but the ability to move on. And I take that in a literal term, but also in a figurative term. Surgery has high impact, and when done well and done at the right time, people can move on. They can just get on with life. But for others, for example, our patient that was stricken with a problem for 45 years, it eroded on his life for 45 years, as opposed to being something that he would just get taken care of and be able to move forward as a farmer. So when we look at this institution, it's an opportunity to serve longer, serve better, we hope, and serve wider. And the other parts of the institution, the curved part, is our inpatient stay, meaning that we would expect and welcome our patients to stay overnight, because we also understand that They have to walk home sometimes. Sometimes they have to hop on a tricycle. 2 years ago, my husband made it his project to take photographs of the patients as they were leaving the hospital. That our patients sometimes walk 4 hours to get to us, sometimes they hop on a military truck to get to us. They are incredibly vulnerable in a way that we don't fully understand. The staggered area is housing for the volunteers. Anyone who has hosted us knows that we're 30 to 40 people from the United States who need a place to live and a place to eat and exist during this service. And so we understand that that's a burden. And so we've built housing so that we can be self-contained. And then the long straight line at the top is the operating room with 6 operating rooms. And typically our operating rooms run 5 cases a day. And so the construction details are forthcoming. This is where we are at this point. We understand that there's some formalities that we need to undertake in order to be able to move forward, and those are important. Our goal and our expectation from the beginning is that this institution will provide high quality care, high access to care. And one of the quality measures that I have in my practice back home is the ability to see me and have your operation within a 2-week period. That's a quality indicator for us back in the States, and we would expect the same here. Because longer than that, and it starts eroding on your life, on your job, the opportunity to go to school. The other aspect that we have integrated into this as well is that when it comes to quality, it's the quality of an institution as well. Joint Commission International is also called JCI, is a hospital accrediting organization that exists in the United States to kind of tell us how the airflow should be, where water management and waste management. It also exists at an international level. And from the beginning, we've intended for this institution to be JCO certified. Why? Because it's an indicator of quality. We want this to be a place that is safe from a medical and a surgical standpoint of view, and we want it to be to a standard. Again, if we're going to do this work, we want it to be of quality. And so we have internally to our board and consultants, JCO representatives who are examining our construction detail and will be examining our engineering detail so that we are certified. And so our 5-year vision, I keep updating this every day. We were hoping to have a groundbreaking this month and today. But what we had was a groundbreaking discussion and relationship building, and we're so grateful for that. We know that what will follow is the first brick, if you will, the first bit of cement, and we're going to be patient with that, and we intend for this to be done right from the beginning. In 2020, we would expect that phase 1 of our build, which will be the Crescent, will be well underway or beginning, so that by 2021 we should be complete with the first phase. The first phase will allow us to operate 2 of the operating rooms, multiple inpatient stays, and continue the work. We don't want an interruption in the work, and begin biannual missions and continue to formalize educational partnerships, such that the quarterly missions would slowly phase in with the second phase of build. And Sage's iLap they're just waiting. I've already put the application in, and they're just waiting for an update as far as the laparoscopy. But once we have a facility for them, they're ready to come and engage with our surgeons here as well as in Manila. And then ongoing rotations beginning in 2022 and the shipment of phase 2. What is this shipment that we're talking about? It's 5,000 square feet of surgical and medical equipment that will outfit this institution that is currently continues to sit in Memphis. This has been a slow build. There's no way we would have been able to accumulate 32 hospital beds, multiple Bovie machines, ultrasounds, stretchers, equipment, IV poles, furniture, operating room equipment and furniture, stainless steel, instruments, lights, operating room lights. Those are things that only through professional begging and equal opportunity relationships and sharing of mission of what these lights and that furniture can impact, it can positively impact the lives of people here in the Philippines. That is the only way we've been able to accumulate that. Our expectations, typically we target 120 procedures per week per team. Our estimation for every 2-year build, majority of our annual budget for the mission has been shipping. It's not the medications and the mesh or the suture, it's shipping. It's the logistics of getting things here. And so we would anticipate, currently we have 5 containers worth of equipment that we would send in 2 phases. Like I said, 1 piece of stainless steel, 1 instrument can do thousands of operations. We have sterilizers already in place for that. It'll reduce the amount of pharmaceuticals purchased each mission because we'll be able to continue on a longitudinal basis. And we would expect and plan 2-week missions with the first year to increase to 4 and then 6 weeks in duration. And so like Dad said, what do we need? We need help. We continue to seek relationships. We continue to seek help around the funding, the capital for this institution. The cost, I've been told by our donors back in Memphis that the capital build is easy. That's getting the building up. The hard part is running it. Well, we feel the opposite. We've been doing this for 19 years. We've never built an institution before, okay? We've never done that. We have gone into schoolhouses and converted them into operating rooms. We've gone into a primary care area and turned it into a surgery clinic and a surgery operating room. We know how to do that, and we think we know how to do it well. But what we need help with is getting the thing built. And if you see yourself within this mission, even just an inkling or one little slice of it, if you find yourself in that or find in your heart that 15-year-old disgruntled teenager finds that something's unfair, let that piece of you live. Because I think that's the Lord speaking to us. Everyone has varying directions and places in faith, but I do believe that we find Christ in others, and we find our true calling when we work alongside the poor. It's brought us an incredible, tremendous amount of joy. It's provided us an incredible and tremendous amount of purpose. And when we think back on those sleepless nights when we're in training, when we think about the loans that we make in order to get the education that we've attained, it somehow feels worth it. Thank you.
Dr. Nia, thank you. We need your help. It'd be nice to have a Al Victor Espino conference room. We'd like to acknowledge the presence of Bacolod Councilor Al Victor Espino, sir. Good evening. We do encourage, if there's anything you want to raise, and Dr. Nia probably, sir, can answer it. If there's anything you need to ask, just raise your hand. You don't have to come to me, I'll come to you.
Doctor, it's very commendable what you do and your family does. They're very commendable. But my question is, because you come once a year, am I right?
Might not have been clear. Our intention is to provide longitudinal care, meaning that we have rotating teams throughout the year. Currently, our faculty in the University of Tennessee provide 58.5 weeks of work internationally every year. And our dean is interested in signing an agreement with the mission to provide ongoing faculty presence to provide surgical care of varying specialties depending on what the need here is. So for example, we have an ophthalmologist who is with something called the Hamilton Eye Center. He's waiting. He's happy to do as many cataract operations as needed to be done here, but he has no place to do them. And we've never been able to provide that infrastructure within our short-term mission because that's something that you develop over time. So our intention is to build this over time and be present on a longitudinal basis. And so for example, if we generate a list of 500 cataracts that need to be done, Dr. Fleming will come, do those procedures, and we're his home base so that he can continue to do that on an ongoing basis, on a rotational basis, whether it's 2 weeks at a time, every other month. It depends on what the need is.
So, because my question is how sustainable can this be on a long-term basis? Because you'll have patients And then if you leave, who's going to take care of them? Who's going to be their postdoc care? And all of that, the maintenance of their needs. Because ideally, it looks, on paper, it is very noble and really, really helpful. But when you think of the long term and how the patients who get left behind, who will handle their care, and how do they maintain, or how do they, because I think this is really a surgical hospital, right?
Correct.
So then, you have to think also of who will take care of them post-operatively, and if, any complications arise when the doctors start leaving or the medical team leaves, will there be a staff here?
Yes, so we'll have ongoing staff. That's a great question. Sorry, we're still building our pro forma for phase 1 and phase 2. But our plan is to have ongoing staff here, because otherwise how are we going to build the teams and understand what the need is? So we have to have a constant presence. And then what we do, and we've learned this from our organizations we've worked with in Haiti and in Honduras, is that you have to have a constant presence. Otherwise you will have no idea what kind of team to build, and there's not a constant home base for those patients. We were just talking with Sir Raul earlier that one of the things that we've learned from charitable care in the States, a little bit here, one of the most challenging things about charitable care is the startup idea. The idea that things are a pop-up and then they go away, and that they're unreliable because you don't know if they're going to be there or not. We've learned that communities build their healthcare access on missions and schedule missions every other month. And for a patient, if I were a thyroid patient, I don't know who these people are. They have no accountability. And so there are several factors to that. One is trust. Is that knowing that you're going to get taken care of, that you'll get your operation and we'll still be here with you, and we're going to see you through this. And the second thing is that we have an ongoing ear to the ground, and that it requires all of us to be listening, so that if you know that someone needs a cataract operation but can't afford it, then you have an opportunity to send that person to us. If we don't have that relationship, we'll never find out about them. Sometimes we recruit people from the airport, we see. That sustainability comes from several different arms. The first is to never say no to people who are interested in helping us. That's the first aspect, i.e. donors. Donors and charitable giving is a significant portion, and we continue to engage in that. The second part of sustainability is not saying no to the things that are afforded. So we know that PhilHealth exists. We know that it doesn't exactly take care of all of the costs. But for people who do have PhilHealth, will we accept reimbursement from PhilHealth? Yes, so long as it doesn't affect, there's nothing coming from the pocket of the patient, we wouldn't say no to that. And the third part is, what about endowments? What about ongoing educational partnerships? Sadly, we've learned that when it comes to surgery training, we have residents who are paying for their patients' care in order to get the cases they need in order to graduate. It's mind-blowing. And so we understand that there's cost, not just to care, but to education. And so the educational partnerships are real. When we look at those educational partnerships, they're not just here in the Philippines, but also in the United States. There are institutions in the United States who partner, for example, and we only learned this through our experience with international work and other organizations in the States, is that there is a need for opportunities internationally for our learners to have educational opportunities internationally, if that makes sense. So when we, for example, University of Cincinnati has a program in Malawi, and they have partnered with an institution in Malawi. And for each faculty and resident that go to serve in Malawi, that institution helps pay for their access to that institution, meaning they pay for the logistics, they pay for that access to that experience. It's a kind of a nuanced version of paying for your patient to be able to have access to, for example, a hip replacement in order so that you can graduate as an orthopedic surgeon. But it's very similar in that when it comes to educational opportunities, there's a cost to that, and there's also an opportunity for that. So that's where those MOUs with our educational partnerships come in. And then the last aspect to it is when it comes to this care, when we're looking at charitable care, our core is to serve the poor. Like my father said earlier, we wouldn't say no to people who aren't poor. And what we call it back home is we call it pay it forward. So for example, if there's an institution, there's a place in Memphis where my husband and I meet, where I could pay $8 for a sandwich. $4 of that goes to pay for my sandwich. The other $4 pays for the next person's sandwich. And that idea is something that we can absolutely extend here. I'm not sure what that is.
It's inside the room, Doc. It's what we call a tuko in Negros.
Is that one of those lizards?
It's a gecko.
Oh, somebody wearing a hat? Because my Lola always told me it's when you wear a hat. And then, so that's the primary. So there's the charitable aspect. There is the sustainability through not saying no to reimbursement. And then there's the other aspect of educational partnerships. Does that help?
Charity hospital?
Absolutely. Our core is always to serve the poor. So we shared with Sir Raul that if he were alongside my patient who had no money and had had a hernia for 45 years, we'd be taking care of my patient with a 45-year hernia first. The priority will be for the poor. That doesn't mean we won't take care of other folks so long as it doesn't compete with local surgeons and affect them negatively. This is where those discussions come in. But yes, absolutely, we're open.
Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor of the municipality of Isabela, Mayor Irene Montilla. Mayor, salamat.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any more? Yes, Councilor Al.
Good evening, Doc.
Good evening.
The key word, I guess, in an endeavor such as this is always sustainability. And of course, I know you're based in the States, and at the end of the day, as former Speaker Tip O'Neill of the Congress of the United States says, all politics are local. And in this case, all healthcare also is local. So when you come here, you have to adapt to our culture, your culture, our culture, and things. But the thing is, going back to sustainability, would you be open to be accredited to like the DOH so that you may receive, or if you, I know you're already familiar with the Universal Healthcare Law, which was signed in 2019, and the sustainability of this institution can also be in partially helped by this law. I don't know if you're familiar with the Universal Healthcare Law. The congressman of the 3rd District, former Congressman Albi Benitez, was an instrumental part of that law. It was partnered with also a Negrense, Senator Ejercito, J.V. Ejercito of the Senate. Unfortunately, he did not make it. If my question is, would you be open to local accreditations by the Department of Health and like local government units like Victorias? I know
Absolutely.
the mayor of Victorias is very lucky to have you in Victorias. We hope that you can have and come also in Bacolod. We have a shortage of hospital rooms, not just in Bacolod but in Negros Occidental.
Yes.
If you do the numbers, the province of Negros Occidental has 2.6 million people.
Right.
And
Yes.
according to the DOH, what we need is 800 beds. 800 constituents per one bed. In effect, the province of Negros Occidental needs about 3,700 beds, and including the regional hospital currently has only 400 beds, and that caters to the poorest of the poor. And hearing this from you, in spite of being a private hospital, this could help decongest. The main problem, I don't know if you've been to the regional hospital, the main problem of that hospital, we have the best doctors, the best nurses, but unfortunately the main problem of that hospital is congestion. So institutions such as yours can help decongest our public hospitals.
Yes, absolutely. I think, thank you, sir, for saying all of that. And those stats were absolutely on the application. So when we're talking about this project across the ocean, we're quoting that number of 2.5, 2.6. Because our intention is not to just serve 100,000 or 250,000. And as a continuation of what our late Remedios Bantug taught us, is that we have an opportunity to serve wider and use it from a home base. And the intention is absolutely to play by the local rules. Why? Because they're meant to protect the local community. And if we're not here to protect the local community, we shouldn't be here. And the only reason we've brought in JCO certification is because we think it's good certification, but it's in conjunction with the local rules and regulations, the local materials, the local thinking, the local way of building even, of things that are familiar and that things that are valued. And I think one of the things I just want to be very humble about is that when it comes to the 10, 15, and 20-year plan of this, our hope, again, is that by doing this through partnership, by working with other learners, both from the United States and in the Philippines, just like us, we found people who want to come alongside us. There's not enough missions that we do in order to have all of those volunteers. People sign up for the missions 3 years in advance, and sometimes they still can't come. We have more helpers than we have opportunities to help. And so this longitudinal project is not a project. It's a longitudinal plan to integrate into the local community to help. And if we can't help, we won't do it. We wouldn't have chosen this place. So it's based on need, and we absolutely have to and should play with by the local and abide by the local rules and regulations, because they are meant to protect the local community. Thank you for that. So yes, certification on all levels is primary. Without it, we cannot operate.
Thank you, Councilor Al. Any more? Yes, Dr. Ver.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm sorry I was late. I'm Dr. Lacson. I've been practicing in Bacolod for almost 35 years as a pediatrician. But I was made in Victoria City. I was born in Victoria City, and I will be in Victoria City forever. Yes, when Wantan Palangka invited me, I did not hesitate. It's because, what is this that you're talking about, this surgical center? So when I read this brochure, I was really amazed and awe. It's because, with this Mr. Benedicto, the Pillars of Negros, and over there, a very famous doctor. I would say that with your philanthropic gesture, your magnanimous act, we have to salute you. And for me, you deserve, a round of applause from us. Thank you so much for your services. Yes, I'm not going to ask. I'm going just to praise you for your magnanimous act. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lacson. I'm gonna try to sound medical here. If you don't have any more questions, it's time to satisfy our gastronomical needs. That's as close as medical as I can be. But anyway, just feel free to approach Dr. Nia, of course, and Sir Renato. During dinner, if you don't want to use the mic, you're ashamed, or just secretly go to them and, hey, I want this conference room under my name. We're open. We'd like to request Miss Sally Barrios to say the grace before meals, please.
Lord God, Heavenly Father, we appreciate your faithfulness upon our lives. We are so grateful to acknowledge you day-to-day blessing in each and every one of us. We are here to present to you the Memphis Mission of Mercy Surgery Center, and to give you praise and honor for letting Memphis Mission of Mercy team to be part of our country, Philippines, in our city. Where do you place them to shine and to be a blessing as God creation? Continue, Lord, to guide and guard them as they continue to do their mission for the betterment of our country as we know it. Your hands, O Lord. protect us from any harm and any danger. Thank you, dear God, for hearing us today. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.